There are choices that change your life forever. One step in the wrong direction and everything you thought was solid crumbles beneath your feet. This is the story of a woman, a man, and a childhood friend. A tangle of forbidden desires, lies, and betrayals that will lead to a shocking twist. The Velvet Hour Bar in Ashfield in Massachusetts was now just a shadow of what it had been. The days passed slowly, as if time itself had decided to slow down in that small village where every glance told a story. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. This story will keep you glued until the end. Alessio, the owner, had invested everything in that bar. Years of sacrifices, dreams built brick by brick. At his side was Emily, his beautiful wife, a woman with Mediterranean charm, with long dark hair and eyes as deep as a stormy sea. But fate, as we know, does not always follow the hoped way. The economic crisis had hit them like a tidal wave, taking away everything they had worked so hard to build. Debts were mounting, while their once solid and passionate marriage was beginning to crumble. Alessio, 5 years older than Emily, bore the signs of defeat on his face, hunched shoulders, a dull look, and trembling hands when he served the few remaining customers. His pride prevented him from asking for help, even though that weight was slowly suffocating. It was on one of those evenings, with the warm air of late summer full of autumnal omens, that Jason Reed reappeared in their lives. Alessio's childhood friend, Jason had become the man that everyone in Ashfield admired. Charismatic, self-confident, owner of numerous commercial activities. He was the incarnation of success. That dinner at Alessio and Emily's house had the bitter taste of defeat. Alessio, crushed by the weight of his situation, took refuge in alcohol, while Emily watched him with a mixture of anger and compassion. Jason, on the other hand, appeared cordial, but his eyes hid something more subtle, a disturbing game of power and desire. "Debts are a nasty beast, Alessio," Jason said, his voice soothing and seeming to caress the air. "But sometimes," he added, casting a glance full of innuendo at Emily, "they can also open new doors." Julia felt a shiver down her spine. What did he mean? Her gaze met Jason's, and in that instant she read something disturbing. A veiled promise, an invitation to a dangerous game. "If you were in Emily's shoes, what would you do? Leave a comment with your opinion." That evening, Alessio fell asleep drunk on the couch. Jason offered to help James clear the table. The tension was palpable, like a tight rope about to snap. "Emily," Jason whispered, coming closer, "you mustn't let him drag you down. There are other ways to solve problems." His perfume, a mix of musk and money, enveloped her. Jason's hands rested on Emily's hips in a gesture that had the flavor of a forbidden promises. Emily felt trapped, torn between fear and an unspeakable desire. "Jason," she stammered, but the words caught in her throat. "An agreement between friends," he murmured, his tones smooth and seductive. "A way to lighten the burden of your problems." That night, in the dim light of the kitchen, Emily gave in. She gave in to desperation, to anger, to a dark desire she didn't even know she possessed. It wasn't just betrayal, it was a surrender, a stifled cry from someone who saw no other way. In the days that followed, as the rain began to soak the deserted streets of Ashfield, Emily's life turned into a whirlwind of contrasting emotions. Every moment seemed charged with an electric tension. The flickering lights of the bar, the whispers in the alleys, even the silence of the clock seemed to condemn her to an inescapable fate. Inner pain mingled with dangerous euphoria. Her eyes shone with the knowledge of a bitter truth. Every choice involves a sacrifice, and she had chosen to betray a love she had once thought eternal. Every secret message, every furtive encounter, seemed like an anchor that dragged her further and further away from the reality she knew. Her heart, once a safe haven, had become a prison where hope and remorse fought incessantly. Jason, meanwhile, skillfully played his part. With the coldness of a puppeteer, he orchestrated each meeting, whispering promises of liberation and power. In his speeches, between one smile and another, there was the awareness of someone who knows he is in control. His elegant and determined figure contrasted with Alessio's lined face, creating a triangle of emotions that kept the audience in suspense. In every word he spoke was the promise of a rebirth, even if that path was fraught with obstacles and betrayal. The tension intensified when Emily, desperate, began to search for clues to the true nature of Jason's investments. One evening, armed with a determination she didn't know she possessed, she sat at the kitchen table and rummaged through old documents and receipts. Every paper, every signature seemed to whisper a dark secret. The more she dug, the more she realized she had fallen into a well-planned trap. Her savings, her dreams, had been manipulated to make her dependent, not only emotionally, but also financially. The discovery was a devastating blow. The deception was not only that of betrayal, but also of a meticulous plan to destroy any possibility of redemption. When the truth came to her, Emily felt the world collapse around her. Anger and helplessness mixed in a whirlwind of uncontrollable emotions. She decided to face Jason, but the fear of what could be unleashed blinded her. On a cold winter morning, with trembling hands and a racing heart, she found herself face to face with him. His gaze was cold, devoid of the spark that had enchanted Julia in the past nights. "Did you really think you had a choice?" Jason whispered, with a tone that suggested that his every action had been planned. That moment was the culmination of a series of events that had transformed Emily's life into a labyrinth of mirrors and illusions. The knowledge that she had been manipulated on every level, personal, emotional, and financial, made her falter. In that confrontation, every unsaid word, every gesture, had taken on the weight of an inexorable destiny. Her soul screamed for a way out, but the invisible chains of a destiny already written held her prisoner. And while the bar, silent witness to all these events, was preparing to face a new day, Julia understood that the real challenge was within her. She had to decide whether to let herself be consumed by pain or fight to regain her identity, to rekindle that inner light that she had always believed she had lost. The choice was not easy, but the path to redemption could begin with a small act of courage, a step towards the truth. The future, once dark and devoid of hope, had turned into a labyrinth of mirrors. Emily no longer knew who she was, victim, guilty, or both. Her nights were filled with nightmares and visions, in which the past and the present mixed in a cruel and fascinating kaleidoscope of emotions. In that vortex, the light of a possible salvation seemed distant, but not completely extinguished. If this story touched you, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications so you don't miss other intense stories like this one. Leave a comment with your final reflection. Is Julia a victim or a perpetrator?